was horrible!
Sword Art Online is an absolute dumpster fire. The writing is sloppy, lazy, and painfully uninspired. The characters are flat, badly written, and completely forgettable. No depth, no development. Just a bunch of tired stereotypes recycled over and over. Honestly, it's one of the most boring and frustrating shows I've ever had the misfortune to watch. The game design in Sword Art Online is terrible too. The mechanics make no sense at all and feel completely thrown together without any real thought. It's obvious the author didn't do any research or put effort into creating a believable or coherent game world. Instead, it's full of inconsistencies and rules that change whenever it suits the plot, which just makes the whole thing hard to take seriously. The romance in Sword Art Online is horrible too. It's forced, shallow, and completely lacking in emotional depth. It tries to present Kirito and Asuna as this epic couple, but their relationship is rushed, underdeveloped, and built on nothing meaningful. There's no real chemistry, just a string of cliches and cringe-worthy moments pretending to be heartfelt. Honestly, Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey, as flawed as they are, managed to tell more convincing and emotionally grounded romance stories than Sword Art Online ever does, and that's saying a lot. It's honestly hard to believe that anyone unironically likes Sword Art Online. There are so many far better shows out there that offer genuine storytelling, well-developed characters, and thoughtful world building. Sword Art Online, by contrast, feels like a lazy cash grab. It's frustrating to see it get so much praise when there are countless other anime that actually push the medium forward. If someone's looking for quality entertainment, they should be watching those instead of getting stuck in the repetitive and uninspired mess that is Sword Art Online. Sword Art Online was never good, and it never will be, no matter how much its fans try to convince themselves or others otherwise. From the very beginning, it's been a shallow, poorly written series propped up by flashy visuals and hype. The plot is riddled with inconsistencies, the pacing is a mess, and the characters are some of the flattest and most uninteresting in modern anime. No amount of nostalgia or fan devotion can change the fact that it fails on every level of storytelling. People can defend it all they want, but at the end of the day, Sword Art Online is style over substance.
If you want to watch a genuinely good anime, check out My Dress Up Darling. It has fantastic writing, a refreshing story, and incredibly likable characters. The chemistry between the leads feels real and well-paced, and this show does an amazing job blending heartfelt moments with humor and charm. It's a standout example of how to do character-driven storytelling right. My Dress Up Darling features an engaging and easy-to-follow storyline, complemented by realistic and well-crafted writing. The characters feel authentic and their interactions are natural, making the narrative both relatable and enjoyable. The show strikes a great balance between lighthearted moments and emotional depth, creating an experience that's both entertaining and meaningful. The female protagonist, Marin Kitagawa, is one of the most charming and well-written characters in recent anime. She's confident, passionate, and unapologetically herself, yet still feels grounded and relatable. Her energy's infectious, and the way she supports and connects with others, especially Gojo, is both heartwarming and authentic. Marin isn't just a great female lead, she's a standout character overall, who brings so much life to the story. One of the standout aspects of My Dress Up Darling is its exceptional animation quality. The studio, Cloverworks, pays meticulous attention to detail, especially in scenes involving fabric textures, sewing, makeup, and costume construction. These elements aren't just visually stunning, but are animated with a level of care that reflects the character's love for their craft. Character expressions are fluid and nuanced, effectively conveying subtle emotions like embarrassment, excitement, or admiration. Whether it's the sparkle in Marin's eyes when she talks about a cosplay idea, or the precision in Gojo's doll painting technique, The animation brings an added layer of immersion that enhances both storytelling and emotional impact. The series shines in its authentic and respectful portrayal of cosplay and traditional doll making. It doesn't treat these hobbies as quirky or superficial side interests. Instead, it showcases them as meaningful forms of self-expression that require dedication, skill, and creativity. The process of designing, sewing, and troubleshooting costumes is shown in detail. My Dress Up Darling is better than Sword Art Online in every way. The writing is smarter, the characters are more genuine and well-developed, and the story actually takes its time to build meaningful relationships. Where Sword Art Online relies on tired tropes and flashy gimmicks, My Dress Up Darling delivers heart, humor, and a real sense of growth. It's everything Sword Art Online tries to be and fails, done right.
High school student Wakana Gojo creates cosplay outfits for a popular girl in his class named Marin Kitagawa. In this video, I'll break down and explain the My Dress Up Darling anime series. The anime begins with Wakana as a kid. He wants to become a Hina doll craftsman like his grandfather. We move to the present, and Wakana goes to school. Wakana doesn't have any friends since he doesn't have anything in common with anyone, and he's scared to tell people about his hobby. Wakana stays after school to use the sewing machine since his sewing machine at home is broken. A classmate named Marin comes into the room. Instead of making fun of Wakana like he thought, Marin admires the fact that he can sew. Marin wants to cosplay as her favorite video game character, Shizuku Kuroe, but she's not good at creating cosplay outfits. Marin asks Wakana to help create an outfit for her. Wakana has never done anything like this before, but he agrees to help. Marin gives Wakana a booklet on how to make cosplays. The next day, Marin goes to Wakana's room so he can take her measurements. Marin gives Wakana the video games that Shizuku appears in for reference. Wakana plays the games for research purposes. Wakana repeatedly avoids Marin at school. Marin finds Wakana after school, and they go shopping together for cosplay supplies. Marin talks about an upcoming cosplay event taking place in 2 weeks. Marin and Wakana exchange their contact information. Wakana creates the outfit for Marin while also studying for his midterm. Wakana pulls several all-nighters, and he successfully finishes the outfit in time. Marin goes to Wakana's room, and she admits that there was a miscommunication. There are several cosplay events, and Marin was going to wait until Wakana was finished with the outfit to attend one of them. Marin apologizes to him for the misunderstanding. Marin tries on the outfit, and she really likes it. Marin has Wakana take some pictures of her, and she posts the pictures online. Marin decides to attend the cosplay event tomorrow since she's ready. Marin and Wakana go to the event. Wakana sees how everyone is having fun. Marin feels uncomfortable due to the heat, so she goes inside with Wakana to cool off. Marin and Wakana head back home. Marin asks Wakana what they're going to do for the next cosplay. Wakana looks forward to working with Marin again. Wakana's grandfather returns home to see that Wakana is hanging out with Marin. Wakana shows his grandfather how he's been making cosplay outfits. Marin realizes that she's fallen in love with Wakana. Marin is hungry, and she's invited to stay for dinner. It's raining, and a girl goes to visit the shop. Wakana's grandfather allows the girl to come inside and dry off. Wakana arrives home, and he accidentally walks in on the girl in the bathroom. The girl introduces herself as Sajuna Inui. She came here to order a cosplay. Sajuna reveals that she's Juju, a cosplayer who Marin really likes. Juju saw Marin's cosplay photos online, and she followed Wakana home. Marin comes and she introduces herself. Juju wants Wakana to make a Shion Nikaido cosplay for her, which is a character from an anime series called Flower Princess Blaze. Wakana gives Juju his contact information. Marin wants to turn this into a group cosplay, but Juju refuses since she prefers to cosplay by herself. Juju intends to go all out and rent a studio space. Marin offers to split the studio fees with Juju since it's very expensive, and Wakana also plans to pitch in. Juju agrees to do a group cosplay. Wakana wants to watch Flower Princess Blaze for research purposes. Marin has all the episodes, and she'll lend Wakana her box set tomorrow. Wakana's grandfather sees that his Hina doll crafting skills have improved and thinks that it's because he made the outfit for Marin. Wakana visits Marin's apartment the next day. Wakana brought some pudding for Marin, and they watch a few episodes of Flower Princess Blaze together. Marin realizes that this is a home date since they're alone together, and she loves Wakana. Marin's stomach growls. Wakana says that he can go get some takeout, but Marin replies that she can make some homemade food for the both of them. Marin makes omelet rice, and Wakana enjoys it a lot. Wakana goes back home and he calls Juju. Wakana sent Juju some sketches and asks if there's anything he needs to revise. Juju responds that it's great. Wakana looks through some of Juju's cosplay photos and he sees that the shape of her eyes is totally different. Juju discloses that she uses face tape to do that. Juju is surprised to learn that creating Marin's outfit was Wakana's first cosplay experience. Juju mentions that her little sister is the one who takes her photos. Wakana wants Juju's sister to teach him about cameras, and and they agree to meet at a family restaurant. Marin goes with Wakana to meet Juju and her sister at the family restaurant. She turns out to be a shy girl named Shinju. Marin and Wakana are shocked to see that Shinju is so tall. Shinju shows Marin and Wakana the camera that she uses to take the photos. Marin asks Shinju why she doesn't cosplay herself. Shinju responds that she doesn't want to do it. Wakana looks up the price of the camera and he sees that it's too expensive. Marin and Wakana will have to continue using their phone camera until they can save up enough money to buy a real camera. The characters go to the studio they rented, which is an abandoned hospital. Juju is scared and she feels uncomfortable being here. Juju and Wakana talk about their dreams. Juju reveals that she always wanted to be a magical girl. As Juju grew up, she understood that it wasn't possible, but she still wanted to look like a magical girl for a while. Juju requested Wakana to make the outfit because she was jealous of Marin's photos and wanted an outfit made by the same person. Wakana remembers a similar conversation he had with his grandfather. Wakana starts crying and he grabs Juju's hand. This is the first time that Juju has held hands with a boy and she passes out. After school, Marin and Wakana go to the beach. A bird steals Marin's burger. Wakana shares his burger with Marin. Marin and Wakana walk into the ocean. Wakana says that he never got out much because of his hobby. Marin promises to take Wakana to a lot of different places during summer vacation. Marin takes a picture of Wakana before he slips and falls into the ocean. Wakana finishes creating the outfit for Juju. He also made a black lobelia outfit for Marin. Wakana uses cosplay tape to change the look of Marin's eyes. They try on the outfits and really like it. Juju and Marin go to the abandoned hospital. They wait for Wakana and Shinju to come. Wakana and Shinju finally show up and there's a flashback scene. Wakana talks to Shinju and she informs him that she is actually interested in cosplaying. There's a character that she loves, but it isn't a good fit for her. Wakana tells Shinju that she should try cosplaying and he'll help her create the outfit. Shinju wants to cosplay as a male character named Soma. Shinju is still in middle school, so she doesn't have a lot of money to spend on supplies. Wakana promises to figure something out. Shinju goes to Wakana's room. He uses his school uniform as the base for the cosplay. Wakana also creates a wig for Shinju and he does her makeup. Back in the present, Marin and Juju take a bunch of pictures together with Shinju. The characters have their photo shoot in the abandoned hospital. Juju thanks Wakana for creating Shinju's cosplay outfit. She promises to pay Wakana back for everything. After the photo shoot, Juju and Shinju go back home. Juju admits that she's jealous of Shinju because she could never pull off a cosplay like that. Shinju promises to get a job when she gets into high school to earn some money so they can cosplay together. Marin calls Wakana and she praises him for creating Shinju's outfit. Marin takes Wakana to a clothing shop and she buys him some clothes. Marin and Wakana then go to a manga cafe. Marin shows Wakana that she wants to cosplay as a character named Liz the Succubus. Marin doesn't know if she can pull off the cosplay, but Wakana thinks that she would look nice and encourages Marin to give it a try. Wakana reads the manga, but he isn't sure how to create the outfit since the art style is too simplified. Wakana will have to fill in the blanks himself. Marin and Wakana go to their photo shoot, which is located in a love hotel. Marin accidentally booked the love hotel, and they can't back out now. Marin puts on the outfit, and Wakana takes some photos of her. Marin and Wakana get on the bed together. They almost kiss, but they get interrupted by a phone call telling them that their time is over and they need to leave. Wakana visits Marin's apartment later. Marin mentions that she's been working as a magazine model to earn money so they can buy an expensive camera. Marin and Wakana watch a horror movie together. Marin and Wakana go to school since Marin forgot her math homework there. Marin finishes her homework and she invites Wakana to a festival. Marin and Wakana watch the fireworks together. Afterwards, Wakana carries Marin home since her feet are very sore. Marin calls Wakana. She wants to hear the sound of his voice because she's scared after watching another horror movie on her own. Finally, the anime ends with Wakana falling asleep. Marin tells Wakana that she loves him. And that's the My Dress Up Darling anime series explained. My Dress Up Darling received positive reviews from critics and audiences. Which movie or anime should I do next? Leave a suggestion. Check out some of the other videos on this channel. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a future upload. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.
As anyone with even a fraction of taste can clearly see, My Dress Up Darling is leagues better than Sword Art Online in every possible way. Sword Art Online is a bloated mess of cliches, cringe dialogue, and cardboard characters slapped together with flashy fights to distract from its utter lack of soul. Meanwhile, My Dress Up Darling actually knows how to tell a story with depth, emotion, stunning animation, and characters that feel real.
Comparing the two is an insult to My Dress Up Darling. One is a heartfelt, slice-of-life gem. The other is a juvenile, overhyped train wreck that should have ended after the first arc. If you want to watch another actually good romance movie, check out Moonshot. You know, something that doesn't feel like it was written by a bored teenager with a sword obsession.
It's the year 2049. A college student named Walt applies to a student Mars program for the 37th time. Walt thinks that he would be a really good fit for the program and he wants to get accepted. Walt currently works as an assistant barista at a coffee shop on his college campus. A girl smiles at Walt and his robot Gary calculates a 52% chance of romantic interest, but a 48% chance that the girl just pities Walt's low status position. Walt speaks to his roommate. Walt feels like he's going to get accepted to the Mars program this time and there's more to life, but Walt's roommate tells him that they're not special. Walt and his roommate go to a party together. A college student named Sophie is in the middle of a video call with her boyfriend Calvin. Sophie is on Earth and Calvin is on Mars. Walt goes to look for the bathroom and he stumbles into Sophie's room. Walt accidentally steps onto Sophie's orb and he breaks it. Calvin's mom, Jan, encourages Sophie to go to the party. Walt meets a girl named Ginny. They took a class together during freshman year. Walt and Ginny quickly fall in love with each other. Ginny asks Walt why he wants to go to Mars so badly. Walt replies that it's an adventure. Ginny understands Walt's point of view. Ginny and Walt kiss each other. Ginny has to leave and she's going to Mars. Sophie repairs her orb. Walt texts Ginny as her ship heads to Mars. There's a 1-month time skip. The Mars program applications are closed and Walt has to wait until next year to apply again. Walt calls customer service, but they tell him that all of his applications have been rejected. Commercial tickets are still available, but Walt can't afford it since a ticket costs $937,000. Sophie goes to the coffee shop that Walt works at. Sophie remembers how Walt broke her orb. Walt makes Sophie pay for her drink if she wants to continue using the Wi-Fi here. Walt wonders how Calvin is doing. Sophie replies that his stay on Mars has become indefinite and her Wi-Fi has cut out from all the calls to him. Gary hopes that Sophie fails to find long-term companionship and she learns the pain of a solitary life. Walt feels bad for Sophie. He knows how she feels since Ginny hasn't texted him back in several days. Walt and Sophie talk to each other for hours. Sophie explains that she's been with Calvin since 9th grade, so 8 years. Sophie and Calvin were planning to create an algae-based waste reduction technology. Sophie shows Walt a checklist of Calvin's quirks. Walt reads through the list and he thinks that the checklist is impossible. Walt tells Sophie to buy a ticket for the ship leaving to Mars tomorrow. Sophie can easily afford it, but she doesn't want to buy a ticket since she has aerophobia, which is a fear of flying. Sophie tries to leave, but the door is locked and Gary won't unlock it. Sophie threatens to file a complaint and Gary finally unlocks the door. Sophie walks away, but Walt goes after her. Walt convinces Sophie to change her mind and she buys a ticket to Mars. Ginny sends Walt a new video message. She got a cat and mentions how it snuck onto one of the escape pods. Walt gets an idea. He packs his bag and says goodbye to Gary, but Gary has already forgotten Walt. The next day, Sophie goes to board the ship and she encounters Walt. He came to apologize to Sophie and he needs a favor. Walt requests Sophie to tell security that he's a family member so he can accompany her to the gate. Sophie refuses and she demands Walt go away. Walt manipulates Sophie and she allows him to come with her. Sophie is nervous and she starts dancing to relieve some tension. Walt dances as well. Walt and Sophie arrive at the launch gate. Sophie says goodbye to Walt and he gives her a parting gift. Sophie boards the ship and Walt sneaks into an escape pod. Sophie opens the gift from Walt. It's a toy of Earth. The ship takes off. Walt messages Ginny that he's coming to Mars. Sophie accidentally rips the toy. There are 35 days until the ship reaches Mars. Calvin and his family send a video message to Sophie. They're glad that she's coming to Mars. Sophie encounters Walt. He plans to hide in the air duct, but Sophie thinks that Walt will either get caught or die. Walt is about to send a message to Ginny, but Sophie breaks his phone since it's a closed network and they'll get caught. Sophie brings Walt to her room. Sophie demands Walt to stay in the room for the duration of the trip, but he doesn't want to do it. The captain, Tartar, comes to the room. Walt pretends to be Calvin. He says that Sophie is his girlfriend. Tartar needs to see Walt and Sophie's IDs. Sophie gives Tartar her ID, but Walt mentions that he doesn't have his ID on him. Tartar doesn't mind and she allows Walt to go and find his ID. It's Sophie's birthday in 2 weeks. Sophie finds a jumpsuit for Walt to wear. Walt has a fake ID of Calvin printed for him. As long as nobody does a deep search, he should be fine. Sophie tells Walt to lay low, and she comes up with a routine for them to not draw attention. Walt wants to have some fun and participate in the many activities on board the ship, but they can't do that since Walt will have to stand trial if he gets caught. Walt watches some of Calvin's interviews so that he can better pretend to be him. Several days pass. Walt receives a video message from Ginny. He uses facial recognition software to determine if Ginny actually likes him. There's an 82% likelihood of romantic interest. Walt also reprogrammed the room's AI. Sophie doesn't like how Walt is changing things without telling her. Walt and Sophie get into a big argument. Walt steals some ice cream something for himself and Sophie. Walt apologizes to Sophie, and she accepts his apology. Walt and Sophie eat the ice cream together. Sophie wonders if Walt has a plan once he meets Ginny on Mars. Walt responds that he doesn't know. He just wants to go on more adventures with her. Walt and Sophie attend a presentation. The speaker is sick, and his presentation on the limits of quantum propulsion is rescheduled. Walt is forced to give a presentation about algae-based terraformation since everyone thinks that he's Calvin. Walt doesn't know anything about the subject of terraforming. Walt talks about some other stuff. He convinces two of the passengers to get married. The passengers throw an engagement party. It's also Sophie's birthday, and Walt gives her a cupcake. Sophie mentions that her parents died when she was 14 and Calvin's parents took her in. Sophie and Walt dance together. Sophie and Walt return to their room. Sophie wants to do something special for her birthday. Sophie and Walt go on a spacewalk together. Sophie is nervous and she starts dancing to relieve some tension. Walt dances as well. Walt jumps off the platform and Sophie does the same. Sophie and Walt look at Mars together. Walt states that it's much better than he imagined. Sophie and Walt return to the ship. They're about to arrive on Mars. Walt crawls through the air duct while Sophie tells him where to go. Sophie's tablet runs out of power, but Walt chooses the correct air duct. Sophie and Walt reunite in a room. Walt sets up a tent and pretends to go camping with Sophie. The ship will arrive on Mars in 14 hours. Sophie and Walt project some holograms of Mars and some different planets. Sophie and Walt almost kiss each other, but they go to sleep. The next morning, Sophie has a video call with Calvin. Sophie has something to say, but Calvin has a room all set up and ready for her. Sophie doesn't say anything and she hopes to see Calvin soon. Sophie talks to Walt. Sophie can't help Walt anymore since she doesn't want to risk it. Walt is angry and he doesn't think that it's fair. Walt admits that he only fell in love with Ginny the night before she left for Mars. Sophie can't believe it and she's about to throw up. Sophie is furious at Walt and she calls him selfish for ruining her life to escape his average existence. Walt doesn't think that Calvin will do what Sophie wants. Walt calls Sophie a coward. Sophie throws the toy back at Walt. Sophie states that she's here because she's wanted and Walt is here because nobody cares where he is. The ship finally lands on Mars. Walt gets arrested. Sophie and Calvin reunite. Calvin brings Sophie to his house. Walt waits for his trial and Ginny comes to talk to him. Ginny mentions that she has a new boyfriend named Edgar. Ginny doesn't like how Walt came all the way to Mars for her after just one night of being together. Ginny isn't here to rescue Walt, but she brought him the stowaway cat. Ginny leaves the room. Sophie eats dinner with Calvin and his family. She claims that she didn't cross paths with the stowaway on the ship. Calvin recommended Sophie for a spot on his team. Sophie isn't very happy about her future. The next day, Walt goes to meet Leon, the creator of the Mars program. Leon says that he's been monitoring Walt. Leon knows everything that Walt has done since there are several security cameras on the ship. Leon didn't arrest Walt earlier since he wasn't going to impact the journey in any meaningful way. Leon is aware that Walt blackmailed Sophie. The board plans to ship Walt back to Earth and tie him up in so much legal trouble that the world will never hear from him again. However, Leon hates the board and he leaked the security footage to the world. The footage has gone viral online and Walt is very popular. People have made tons of memes about Walt. Now the board is terrified of a PR backlash. Leon mentions that Walt reminds him of a younger version of himself on an emotional level. Leon knows that he and Walt both came to Mars for the exact same reason. Leon thinks that he and Walt can help each other. Leon believes that people would want to hear about Walt's life story since he risked everything to come to Mars and make his unremarkable life a tiny bit better. Leon offers Walt a contract. Walt can give control of his likeness to Leon's company for exclusive use and promotional material in exchange for a permanent stay on Mars. Walt accepts and he happily signs the contract. Walt walks around Mars in a spacesuit. In the meantime, Sophie writes her thesis presentation. Jan notices that Sophie's unhappy. Walt reads a journal entry about his impossible checklist with Sophie. The last box that still hasn't been checked is to have an ultimate adventure. Sophie and Calvin plan to attend the return party. Sophie doesn't know if she'll be the right fit for the job with Calvin's team. Calvin believes that Sophie would be the perfect fit, but she has to finish her thesis first. Calvin disagrees. Calvin tells Sophie that she's already here and has a job offer, so she can graduate without completing her thesis. Walt works as a barista at the return party. Tartar is there and she admits that she knew the truth about Walt the whole time. Tartar questions Walt how he's enjoying Mars. Walt responds that he honestly thought that it would be different. Walt believed that he would be changed or something, but things are exactly the same. Tartar tells Walt that he can never escape himself no matter how far he travels. Sophie and Calvin arrive at the party. Walt talks to Sophie and he tells her what happened with Ginny. Walt acknowledges that Sophie was right and Ginny was just an excuse. Walt apologizes to Sophie for everything. Walt has repaired the ripped toy and he gives it to Sophie. There's also a checklist of things that Sophie wants to do. Jan speaks to Sophie. She tells Sophie that she's allowed to change and nothing will happen between them since they're still family. Sophie breaks up with Calvin. Leon informs Walt that there's been a change of plans. Leon intends to send Walt to a tiny little dwarf planet between Mars and Jupiter. Walt will be the first person on that planet. Leon states that he chose Walt because people find him painfully average. If people see that Walt can do it, then they'll be inspired to do literally anything. Walt accepts. Leon mentions that Walt won't see his family and friends for a few years. Walt tries to call Sophie, but she's no longer registered as a resident on Mars. Sophie is the sole passenger on a shuttle returning to Earth. She's already boarded the ship. The ship departs and Walt makes it on board just in time. Walt tells Sophie that he's following her back to Earth. Earth. Walt really enjoys being with Sophie. Walt says that he would rather stay on Earth with Sophie than be alone on Mars without her. Walt isn't giving up anything, and he says that Sophie is the ultimate adventure. Walt and Sophie kiss each other. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more.